A lot of times when we address our well-being, we tend to focus either on our mental health or our physical health. But these factors are actually fundamentally linked, and we really need to think about how they are operating together. Today we're going to talk all about how we can improve our physical health by addressing our mental health and vice versa. Welcome back. I hope you are doing fantastically well. My name's Nina and I'm a life coach that specializes in personal development. Here at this channel, we talk all about our emotional well-being, understanding our own psychology, and leading our best life possible. So if you're interested in self-development and you haven't already subscribed, please take a moment and do so because we definitely want you to stay connected. Today's topic is so important to me because I actually made this realization very late in the game. So I became incredibly interested in self-development and personal growth, and I put a lot of time and energy into it. However, I had been really neglecting my physical health. I never really thought that one had much to do with the other. So I was journaling and I was meditating and I was doing all these wonderful positive things. However, I was still having an incredibly horrible diet. I was barely getting any sleep, and I was definitely just not really taking care of myself. So once I realized that if I took better care of my physical health, my mental health would vastly improve, that is exactly what happened. So I felt so much better, and I was able to really increase the speed of my own personal development. So we will be diving deep into this very important topic today and going over some very simple but effective strategies that really address both our physical and mental health. I hope it makes you extremely motivated and excited to continue living your own best life. So I wanted to start by talking about three incredibly important connections between physical and mental health. And the first one is that poor mental health is a serious risk factor for chronic physical conditions. So this goes along with point 2, which is that people with serious mental health issues are certainly at risk for a lot of chronic health conditions. And that goes along with number 3, which is the reverse, and that is that people with poor physical health are at a greater risk for poor mental health. So these are 3 very important things to remember when we are thinking about the connection between physical health and mental health. And now that we know that there is so much evidence to back this, we can understand how important it really is to address both factors in our life every single day. So let's go ahead and talk about 8 different simple strategies that we can use to make sure we are always addressing both our physical and mental health. Now, the first one is getting enough sleep. I speak from experience saying that this is one of the most important things that we could ever do. I say this because I went through at least 10 years of my life being completely sleep deprived, and it affected both my physical and mental health to such a severe degree. I know what it's like to try to function on not enough sleep and just not be able to do it. The reason why it happened for me is because my career was so demanding that I really didn't have enough time to get everything that I needed to do both in my professional and personal life. So what I did was I just cut out sleep. I only got a couple hours of sleep every single night, and I did this for years and years, and it was so negative for me. Once I finally realized that I needed to get a good amount of sleep, my life completely changed. And that is something that I make sure now is such a priority in my life, and that is something that I definitely suggest for you, because adults really need to get a minimum of 7 hours of sleep, and so rarely that happens. Most adults get closer to maybe 5 or 6 hours, which really is not enough. That is going to affect, again, both your physical and your mental health. So make it a priority. At night, I know a lot of times we feel like when we get home, we really want that time to chill out or watch television or scroll through social media because we think of it as me time. But really what is more important is sleep. That is the most important thing that you could really ever give your body. So if you're feeling like I did, that there was not enough time to sleep, you really need to shift things around or make changes in your life, because you will simply not be able to sustain this forever. At some point, your body is going to tell you, I need sleep, and you will not be able to keep this up. So you need to rearrange your schedule. If you need to relook at your priorities and see what things that you can cut out, or if you could take naps, but definitely start making sleep an extreme priority. The second one is exercise, and I know this one seems obvious, yet so many people do not do it, or they do not do it enough. So we know that exercise is, of course, so important to our own physical health and maintaining our body, but it is certainly also very essential to our mental health. It helps improve our mood, and it definitely reduces stress and anxiety. So exercise is so important for so many reasons. The third thing, and the last of the kind of obvious factors, is our diet. Now, this is an area where I actually still struggle to this day. I have to be very careful with what I eat and give a lot more intention to it, because I tend to like foods that are really junky. So we want to make sure that we are really fueling our body with foods that are helping us and not harming us. We want to have foods that are whole and not processed, and we also want to make sure that we are drinking enough water. The fourth thing is to cut down on unhealthy habits. Now, these can be the things that pop into your head, like drinking or smoking, but we can have a lot of unhealthy habits that we aren't really paying attention to. It could be really a negative mindset, thinking negative thoughts or catastrophizing. It could be being critical of other people. But so many of our mindless habits really affect both our physical and mental health. So a lot of times it just comes down to really giving it some self-analysis and see what habits in your life are really holding you back. The fifth thing we can do is to try to eliminate stress as much as possible. And I know in this modern day and age, we experience an incredible amount of stress. And a lot of it is actually more in control than we think. We tend to think of ourselves as being a victim to the world, but we have more control than we think, because we can always control our reaction to situations. We can also think of ways to reduce stress, such as engaging in more vigorous self-care, taking a lot of baths, doing nice things for ourselves, trying to unwind at the end of the day, reading books, whatever it is for you, but finding effective ways to reduce stress, because we know that stress can lead to all kinds of problems with both our mental and physical health. Now, the sixth thing we can do is one of my favorite strategies, and that is to spend plenty of time outdoors. Now, this is something that also really got neglected in my past career, because I felt that I was too busy to ever spend any time outdoors. But once my lifestyle changed, it just opened up a new world for me. Now I spend every morning running, and I try to get outdoors in the evening, at least to just look at the stars or just kind of stroll around. But it definitely gives me a lot of life energy. And this is completely backed by science. We know that the more time outdoors we spend, the better our mental health is and our physical health. So we want to just make sure that we really schedule time in for this, because a lot of times when we don't put it on the schedule, it does not happen. So make that commitment to yourself that you are going to spend as much time outdoors as you possibly can. The seventh thing that we can do is to really start to address all the aspects of our well-being. And there's so many different ways that we can choose to do this. One way is through mindfulness, being really present in the moment at hand, trying not to ruminate over the past or to worry about the future, or to practice meditation. That's something I certainly suggest to every single person, where we can really just kind of quiet our mind and observe our own thoughts and just have that really serene, peaceful moment. We can also practice journaling. This is something I also suggest to all of my clients. They're actually required to keep a self-growth journal. But in our journal, we can really record our thoughts and our feelings. And a lot of times we can have a lot of eye-opening moments when we read our journal, because a lot of times we're blind to something until we actually see it written on the page. So sometimes our subconscious really speaks to us through our writing. So it's a wonderful tool for self-development and our well-being. We also want to make sure that we are being careful with the things that we are consuming, not only into our body, but also things like television and social media. If you do watch television, you want to make sure that you are only watching things that make you feel positive about the world. You don't want things that are actually bringing you down. A lot of people, without realizing it, are very especially sensitive to the news, and there's so much negative news, and a lot of times people will have it just on in their house 24 hours a day, and again, it's kind of seeping into the subconscious, and it can contribute for a lot of people to anxiety, worry, and even depression if we start to really focus on these things. The same with social media. A lot of times we think that we are going on social media to enjoy ourselves, but instead we start to feel a lot of negative emotions. We start to feel that we want to compare ourselves to other people. We start to see things that we find disturbing or upsetting. So we just want to be very, very careful about anything that we are consuming and really try to think of our well-being as an extreme priority. And the 8th thing that we can do is to live a life with balance. This is something that is very difficult for a lot of people, and something that I did a podcast on that I really suggest to you. So I'm going to go ahead and link that down below just in case you missed it, and just in case you need a little more assistance with trying to lead a life that is balanced. I know a lot of times we don't realize it is unbalanced, but anytime we are really focusing our time, attention, or finances all in one area, our life becomes unbalanced. So we want to make sure that we have time for fun, time for rest, time to be productive. We want to just make sure that we're really addressing all different aspects of our life, and that, again, we're not just hyper-focused on one singular thing. So like I said, these are 8 very easy, simple strategies that we can use to really address both our physical and mental health, because our physical and mental health are completely intertwined. They are reliant on one another. So when we ignore one, the other one will eventually falter. So it's so important that we really keep it in our mind that we need to be addressing our health as a full unit and not being too focused on one or too focused on the other. They are both equally important and will both help you to live a life that is much more healthy and fulfilling. So I hope this video was helpful to you, and if it was, please like it and share it with someone else who may need to hear the same message today. Also, again, if you aren't already a subscriber, please take a moment and become one. We definitely want you to stay connected, and I thank you so much for spending time with me today. Have an absolutely amazing day.